Welcome back, boys and girls. After a long summer hiatus, I hope everyone had a restful couple weeks.
Because I didn't. Ben didn't.
With your brains cleansed by not listening to our slurry coming through your ear canals.
Jesus Christ, yeah, our pink slurry coming straight into your ears, right back out your mouth.
Yeah, that wrinkled brain slurry.
Yeah. Oh my God, I can't even look at Ben
Pinky
while he's talking like
brain,
this. He's looking at me.
Brain.
Why are you doing this? That's not even... Oh, okay. Look, check it out. Ben's back.
We're
after
memory leak.
Getting on a plane every fucking time I wanted to record.
We're memory leak.
All right.
We're memory leak.
We're memory leak. Yes, that's right. Get it, brain slurry? Haha, get it? What's your name?
My name's Benjamin Django Fett to Jammin.
What? And my name is Geron, Pigman Geron, all right?
Pinkman?
Pigman. Pigman.
Pikmin?
Wait, fine, Pigman.
Pac-Man?
Pac-Man. Manny Pacquiao. Fuck that dude.
Wait, why?
Because he's a fucking... I'm not going to make any
I
claims
don't
right
remember
here, but
when
he's
he
an
got
asshole.
I don't remember him getting canceled.
He didn't get canceled. He's just an asshole.
All right, fair enough. He's a politician.
He's not a politician, is he?
Manny Pacquiao?
The boxer?
Yeah, he became like
Oh, I didn't know that.
a big politician in the Philippines or whatever.
Oh shit. Sorry. Well, I don't care.
Yeah, former senator.
Damn, that's ridiculous to me. Not saying that, look, back up. It's weird to me when someone who's like in sports or in movies or some shit becomes a fucking politician. That's weird as shit to me. But
Gave us Arnie.
true, and wasn't Nixon an actor? Or was it fucking
That was
Reagan?
Reagan was an actor.
Oh, see?
That's why all the jokes about Nancy the throat goat and the back
Oh,
of
that's
Hollywood
right. Yeah.
Studios.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, you're right. Jesus Christ. All right. What are we fucking talking about?
Talking about games. It's been a while.
Yeah, we always talk about games. What are we talking about today?
We can talk about
You sound-
the stuff that's been coming out over the last
Because
month.
you asked me to talk about Pigman game
Yeah.
last time we were going to record, but then you got snatched up and taken away.
It's true.
So I don't know if you want to focus on that or if you want to focus on something.
Let's just start there and we'll see where it takes us.
All right.
So, Beyond Good and Evil 20th anniversary came out.
Yeah. It's late.
It was a little bit of a surprise drop.
Kind of. The game got leaked.
Oh, it was leaked.
In November of last year when they accidentally released it on the Ubisoft launcher on Xbox. Fucking foolishness. But either way, yeah, it came out. It's like it was 6 months late for the anniversary, but whatever, not a big deal. And this was your first time playing it.
It was my first time.
This would have been like my 10th.
That's not exactly true. I had played it.
Okay, but
on the 360 on Xbox Live Arcade.
Okay.
And I dabbled with it because I was like, oh, people fucking circle their own jerks over this game. I got to see what's going on.
If it's like all like that, but
I mean, it's a little like that.
I really like the game.
People really like
I've
the
seen
game.
people really like the game, but I've never seen anybody like about it. You know what I mean? But go ahead.
I mean, I feel like they have to because at this point, Beyond Good and Evil 2 is like a circle jerk in and of itself.
That game is an Ouroboros of fucking like.
We'll have to get that.
Hey, it exists. No, it doesn't. It exists. No, it doesn't.
I mean, it's the perfect kind of like cult classic game that achieved cult classic status, and it wasn't the easiest, most accessible game to play nowadays.
Yeah,
it's like
right.
The only release was on Steam, and it was super fucked up and broken.
Easiest. Well, you could play if you had an Xbox, the HD version on the 360 was backward compatible on the Xbox One and the Xbox Series, I believe. But I don't know if that's been delisted or not.
It was.
It was? I know it was.
I believe it was.
I know the original game was delisted on Steam if you didn't already have it.
I would have to imagine they delisted it everywhere then.
I mean, they don't have to do that. Imagine if you still want to buy it. Because everything on the Xbox 360 is about to get delisted anyway. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
and then
fair enough.
On PS3, all that stuff is still there, and they still charge $19.99 for it.
Yeah, so I have known Geron always really liked Beyond Good and Evil, so now I was curious, like, is this game actually good? or is it a meme?
Jesus Christ. I hate that this dude doesn't trust me.
I didn't know if the game was a meme, so I bought it on Switch.
Yeah.
And I played it. And I booted up the game, and I was like, this game is really weird.
Yep. Yes, it is.
And that was my first comment, and Geron agreed.
Yes. It's one of those things that I say, yes, correct, when somebody tells me there's something feels wrong here, and I'm like, yeah, yep, correct.
It's a weird game. The game feels kind of jank.
Yep.
It looks kind of jank. It plays kind of jank. You're thrust into the game, into the combat sequence, and you're kind of just mashing buttons, and you're like, don't have a lot of health, and then you're thrust into the story, and you're thrust into characters, and then you get a bunch of items tossed at you. You get a camera mechanic tossed at you.
Basically,
you get a vehicle mechanic tossed at you.
Immediately, yeah.
And you're just like, what the fuck is going on in this game? There's so much shit being thrown at me. None of it feels particularly good.
Interesting.
And I'm like, I don't know what to make of this sort of first 10 minutes.
Yeah, the fact that was how you felt in the first, as a first impression is interesting to me.
Which, again, like, my first thought is like, this is probably a meme game, like product of its time.
I hate the term meme game. Like, I don't know what that's supposed to mean.
It doesn't really, it means nothing.
Five Nights at Freddy's, that's a fucking meme game.
Yeah.
For real. No, this shit is just a, quote unquote cult status game. That's it.
A cult status game, but so with cult games though, you always have to evaluate like if it's just a rabid fan base for
you have to consider
a game that's not actually good, or if it's a game that's actually good but just really hard to access.
Yeah.
So that's what I was trying to suss out.
Okay.
And my first impression was this game kind of feels like shit. Probably just a nostalgia bait from 2000. Was it 2001?
It was 2003.
2003.
I'm shaking my head right now, by the way.
So that was my first impression, and I was like, kind of turned it off for a
Wow.
couple days.
Wow.
I first booted it up on my first of many plane rides over the past month, and then came back to it on my plane ride back from the Turkish lands of the sands of time.
Holy shit.
But on my flight back, I pretty much played through the rest of the game. And so what I did slowly come to realize over the course of playing through the game and just kind of forcing myself through the first 30 minutes to 1 hour and actually like getting into the meat of it.
Yeah.
It is a product of its time, but there's a charm to it, a very unique, specific feeling,
very specific,
and aesthetic that does transport me back to 2003 very successfully, even as somebody that doesn't have nostalgia for the game. And it's absolutely a game that is better than the sum of its parts.
Interesting.
That's 100% how I would describe it. There's not a lot of games like that these days, where games these days, I would say, really focus hardcore on one specific mechanic or thing that it's trying to do really well, and that's what it's competing with, is other games trying to do that one thing really well. But going back to sort of like the first impression of being thrown into like 4 different gameplay systems at once, that's also to the game's benefit. Again, thinking about games from 2003, there were not a lot of games that had basically like a Pokemon Snap-esque photography system. Yeah. It had vehicles with combat and bosses that you had to fight in the vehicles. It had vehicle progression where, spoiler alert, you go from a hovercraft to a completely flying spaceship.
Yeah.
It's not really open world. It's a relatively large world interconnected through a series of loading screens.
It appears large.
Yeah, it appears larger than it is.
Pretty teeny tiny.
Again, by modern standards.
But I mean, by any standard, I thought it was small that's what I liked about it when I was younger. Yeah. That it felt like it was not gigantic like Wind Waker was.
But like the feeling of the world being big and the world not actually being big is a really good sort of microcosm of, again, what the game is good at.
Okay.
Like the game feels deeper than it actually is on paper. Because again, if you put up all of the sort of gameplay systems by themselves and sort of list them out, like what goes into them, the game would probably look very bare bones on paper. The combat is like, there's not a lot going on there.
The combat is whatever.
You smash the button, and depending on the direction you're pressing, maybe it'll do a different move.
And the timing. It's got delay combos like Devil May Cry.
Kind of.
No. It's not like
it's not really like Devil May Cry.
Well, there's things where you tap, wait, and then you get a different move when you start tapping it again.
The way I interpret it is more for style than it is for any sort of like actually intentional decision making you're doing with the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean,
like the end result is the same.
It's usually the same.
It's an enemy that is going to wait for you to attack a certain amount of time, and if you take too long to hit it, it's going to hit you.
Yeah,
and that's the sum of enemy behavior in that game. But you've got like a charge move, and the charge move can be upgraded. Like the things. Each gameplay system has a limited amount of progression, which makes it feel a little bit deeper than it actually is. The photography, you can get a zoom lens. You get that immediately. Yeah. You take pictures of maps, and the maps sort of materialize, and you can get radars for the maps for collecting all the collectibles. So it's got some light action-based combat. It's got photography systems. It's got like collectible systems in it, like you're collecting pearls and you're collecting animals and you're
animal
like,
photos,
those things
pearls,
sort of synergize together.
There's various things. Yeah,
there's vehicle mechanics in terms of there's races and there's combat and there's challenges that you have to do.
Yeah, there's the looter chases and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep, and then it's got there was one other thing I was gonna say, but yeah. So I mean, it's got like dungeons, I guess. Oh, stealth.
Yeah, it does have stealth. And almost every dungeon has a little bit of stealth in it, except for the first one.
Yeah, there's stealth mechanics at play in terms of like you have to beat certain enemies a certain way, or you're just gonna get blasted to death.
Right. Yeah.
So
you have to not get seen by a drone, or it's gonna fucking shoot a laser at you and kill your ass. Yeah.
And each of these individual things by themselves are pretty shallow and like not a whole lot of meat to them. As soon as you do them a little bit, you're like, I get the idea.
Get it. Yeah.
But the fact that it has all of these things together keeps the variety high. They keeps like interspersing you, and the pacing is good. And
the pacing's good. The game
leave
is
you doing one particular thing for too long,
and you're not really for lack of a better word for it, you're not like pussyfooting around trying to do shit. Almost every time you're like, oh, I need a bunch of pearls. Yeah, they just hand them to you. They're like, oh, the people of Hillis support you. Here you go. Have 5 of them.
Yep.
So
you've got like partner moves. The partners can get upgraded with like more armor and more weapons. And so like
more. I guess Paige. Paige gets a weapon.
The Paige gets a weapon, and what's his name gets a weapon.
Does Double H get the?
He gets an axe. It's an optional thing.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the armor.
He does
an
get
optional dungeon.
Yep, you're right.
And there's optional dungeons. Like there's a little bit of exploration in there too.
Yeah.
So. Again, all these things together, and the fact that it's only a 10-hour game.
Yeah, the game is very short. Like for what it is, the game is short.
So that the overall experience together feels cohesive and good, and all these things sort of like synergize together. Like the camera system almost acts like a scan visor type situation for Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not doing these things in isolation. They're always sort of like
each mechanic touches all of the other ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you can take photos while you're in the boat, the hovercraft, or you can shoot while you're in the hovercraft, or you can throw discs while you're taking photos. You can, everything,
And the photos then lead to the collectibles, and you get more pearls from it. So it's just like it's very well thought out from that perspective of like how all these things integrate into one experience.
Yeah, there's a reason to do almost everything in the game.
Yeah, So. There's not a lot of games like that anymore. Any game that has more than one sort of like gameplay mechanic, it's usually sort of like these things like added into the side that is only intended to be experienced by itself,
right?
As like a side thing that doesn't really connect to the main game at all.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that does have to do with the nature of just like AAA games and how long it takes to develop things.
Right. And how many people you have developing. Sometimes with a smaller team, everybody sees everything. With a bigger team, the people that are working on this one mechanic over here might be a completely separate contracted company, like studio, that has nothing to do with any of the other stuff. So when it comes time to integrate the stuff together, it's like, how do we make this work? Yeah. Kind of thing. And speaking of the thing of integrating all the mechanics, a game that doesn't do it particularly well actually is Batman Arkham Knight, where they built the Batmobile into the game, and that's usually everyone's complaint. And they made the Batmobile like a tank, so you have to shoot things. And then they it's like they were afraid you weren't going to be able to use it enough. So like the Riddler trophies make you do driving challenges, which it's like, why? A lot of the combat has you fighting these drones while in tank mode. It's like, why? Yeah. Why can't I just use this to like Beyond Good and Evil does in a way where it kind of just you do it and it doesn't take very long.
Exactly.
In this Batman game, you have to dodge and shit.
Yeah.
And the game is great. Like Arkham Knight's great, but the Batmobile really should have been just a way for you to get from point to point and do Batman stuff. Not they built the world where like the police station has this giant tunnel that's wide enough for you to drive the Batmobile into it, and it's just like they were so afraid. Like I said, they're so afraid that you weren't going to have enough opportunities to touch it that they made too many to do that rather than properly just having it move you from place to place to place to place, and sometimes having to use the tank or sometimes having to use it for this or that.
Yeah.
So
other elements of the game, the narrative I was pleasantly surprised by.
Yep.
You know, at first it feels kind of like a Jack and Daxter or a Ratchet and Clank type thing where it's like, oh, goofy, cartoony with like weird alien things going on.
Yeah.
But then it very much pivots to a much darker tone.
Something it's much more grim than and the way it starts showing you how fucked up it is a little scary actually, like especially when I was 13 seeing the
for sure it's creepy as
shit.
Mean,
we'll probably we can go ahead and spoil some of it. Like there's Beyond Good and Evil spoilers in this thing from here on especially.
Yeah, we're gonna spoil.
But seeing like
so you go into the factory, like the bulk dungeons of the game, and they're all like fucked up corporate shit, taking advantage of humanity,
exactly.
People, human trafficking,
experimentations on people,
morphing people's fucking DNA and shit.
Yeah, the people that are supposed to be protecting the planet is called Hilius, so the people Hillis, so the people are called Hylians. And they are protected by something called the Alpha Sections, which is a higher a rank of the government, not government, rank of the military, and they basically act like cops, But they're all actually not working for the people of the planet.
Yeah, they've been basically taken over by the aliens.
By an alien race, which is called the DOMs specifically, DOM capital Z.
Yeah,
and
and the DOMs are like kidnapping children, and
they're
like
kidnapping kids. They're
people over to these fucking factories and feeding off of them.
Yeah, they're draining them of their their life force. They're fucking using people as energy for something. They don't specify what that something exactly is until the end of the game, but the way you start seeing that is by seeing like X-rays of skeletons and barrels and shit.
Yeah.
And then you start to see these barrels going to ships that are being shipped off to space. And the people's heads are sticking out of them and they're just it's so weird, dude.
It's a weird, it definitely feels fucking weird as shit.
Yeah, it's
in a way that only like, I don't want to say low quality, but like in only the way that a 2003 video game aesthetic.
Yeah, like it's the reason why like lo-fi horror works so well, because it's just enough information for you to think about what it's supposed to be, but because it's so off, it ends up coming off as weirder than it may actually.
More surreal.
Yeah. Like and the people of Hillis have have like red skin tones and things like that. So you see people you never see anywhere else in the game. Everyone just looks weird and
and there's like different
dry and weird.
There's a bunch of like Homo sapiens, but blended with animals.
Yeah.
So like there's like goat people like and rhino people and walrus people.
Yeah,
and they don't really explain it, but the more you play the game, you kind of like realize there's probably a reason.
Yeah, in fact,
creatures exist.
The trailers of like Beyond Good and Evil 2 especially,
which is supposed to be a prequel,
right? It's supposed to be a prequel. Kind of demonstrate that there is there was something going on with them. They're created this way. They're not just they're not just a product of the world that exists in the game.
But yeah, so the narrative, like kind of like cognizant of social issues and the world, that have always been an issue in the world. This isn't like a political thing per se, but it's touching on something that like people can think about and have an emotional core to react to. And what I like is how it does then go and tie that to this like blend of gameplay mechanics. Like Jade isn't just an action hero, she's a photographer, she's a photojournalist.
Yeah.
So you're playing as a journalist that your primary job is to like make information known and like get the truth out there so that people can start to like fight back and rebel and take back control,
which
from
slowly
this like totalitarian society that you don't realize is totalitarian at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, which you get to see the effects of as the game passes. Like there's a pedestrian district, whatever, and you see people, start to come in with signs, start to chant against the alpha section.
Over the course of the game.
Yeah,
and as that happens, more of the alpha section comes and starts patrolling the streets.
Starts patrolling it, and then
there's more fucking cops, and you realize, oh shit, this is like kind of what happened.
And you start to get access to their like base of operations, which happens to be underneath the pedestrian district, so they know everything.
Yeah,
and you get caught a couple of times, and they eventually know who you are.
Yeah.
So you have to, run from them as they chase you through the streets and shit. It's cool.
Yeah, all that shit ties together in a really much more cohesive way than I ever thought it would.
It would, yeah.
I thought it would be a lot more jank and interspersed, but it just it kind of works. It works as much as it needs to.
Yeah, which
is a really hard thing to achieve.
I was going to say, these days. Yeah, like all the little pieces do come together, and they you said greater than the sum of its parts, but I think it's just as good as the sum of its parts in my opinion. I think,
but each part is like just as good as it needs to be.
Yeah,
but each part by itself would be trash.
Would be I don't know about trash.
It'd be really boring. They're like equivalent. It's like
if you had each part in complete isolation, then they wouldn't make sense together. Yeah,
like the looter cavern. If that was just like a gameplay segment in most other games, you'd be like, this is so nothing.
Yeah, like why am I doing this? Yeah.
Like this vehicle combat is like it works. It's good enough for me to do this one thing, but each thing kind of like would be super boring by itself. So
super.
Tying what?
Super. I'm talking to our audience like whatever.
It would be boring as shit. You'd be like, why the fuck am I doing this? Like there's games that do vehicle combat better than this. There's games that do action game combat better than this. At the time too, like there's games that did photography better than this. Like Pokemon Snap had deeper photography mechanics.
Yeah, but and like you're saying, that's like all the game was. So.
Right, that's kind of what I mean. Is that like it dabbled in this sort of like mosaic of other shit. That, like it's almost like a Monet, where it's like each of these things are a little bit blurry.
Look at this,
but then you take a step back and it makes
and you have a
picture.
full. Yeah, you have a full.
So like that's kind of the impression that I got of this game. And I enjoyed it once I had that full.
Once you looked at it that way, yeah. How'd you feel about the way it ended?
It ended on a cliffhanger that we'll never see the resolution.
That will never ever.
Especially because Beyond Good and Evil 2 is a prequel.
Is a prequel, exactly.
A prequel that doesn't need to exist. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I don't see any way possibly that Beyond Good and Evil 2 could be good, knowing about. Now, like what made Beyond Good and Evil 1 special and relevant.
Exactly, yeah.
Which like was a product of its time. Again, didn't do anything particularly good individually, but brought things together in a way that was unique for itself. Like games like that simply are not made anymore. Yeah, they simply are not.
Beyond Good
don't exist.
Exactly. Like Beyond Good and Evil, the first game, the one game. I say the first as if there's a fucking other one yet. It sits in this little like pocket dimension where it was it's from the people that made fucking Rayman. It was an adventure game after that came out around the same year as fucking Wind Waker, so another Zelda game. It had the specter of just like it being a new IP and all that. Just everything was kind of against it, and it didn't sell very well either. So when you do finally get to play it, well, like you did, you kind of see that it's just this little corner that it has to itself.
Yeah.
And the sequel wants to be a fucking Ubisoft game, if you know what I mean. Like,
it has to be a Ubisoft game.
Well, it wants to be big and have little points of interest to do all that.
Even if it wasn't a Ubisoft game, like just thinking objectively, take it, put it back in its own pocket dimension.
Sure.
And think, how does a sequel in 2024 for this ever get made in a way that is like beloved or applauded or successful?
Well,
what measure what direction do you take it in? You know what I mean?
Really, you just don't make a sequel to it. You know
right.
what I mean?
That's the thing.
That's
it's like a sequel
and that's
to
the
this
difficult
game makes
thing about
no
it.
sense.
Yeah, like I'm completely fine with not really knowing much about Jade's origin or knowing what happens after the cliffhanger. Mainly because they manage to make you care about these things while you're playing the game.
Right.
They don't really intend for you to be looking back or looking forward. They just want you to be you kind of feel the way Jade would feel.
Yeah.
And Jade being the main playable character. You kind of feel the way like I don't really know what happened to me or Jade. I don't really know what's going to happen. She just now knows that she has some power.
Yeah.
And this power doesn't mean anything to us in the real world, but in the game it changes everything.
Right.
But those are things we don't need to experience because it's not our world anymore. We can leave it. We saved it. You know what I mean?
Not even talking about the narrative.
Yeah, but
like thinking about the game just purely from a mechanics standpoint.
Yeah.
I don't know, like in terms of how sequels are made, right? Sequels can go in one of a number of directions. One, you take what you had before and you just improve.
What's there, right?
That's not going to fucking work because they have too much shit for them to go back and try to refine. The more the deeper they go in any of one particular thing here, like the more time it's going to take. Yeah. The reason it's probably in fucking development hell. They're probably trying to add even more mechanics and more weird systems to the game.
Dog, yeah, I
like it's gonna hit weird and different, and like it's gonna feel like too much. It's gonna feel simmy, you know. If they go deeper on the photography,
the new game is gonna have
why
nothing.
Why do I have to learn all this shit to get through the game?
Yeah,
like it's gonna be too much for one person to like absorb. And comprehend.
You're talking about as a hypothetical, yeah.
I make like hypothetically, I'm thinking of the different.
If they did it as a sequel, not
yeah.
like what they're doing, what they're actually doing. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they're actually doing.
Have you not seen any of the gameplay?
Is there gameplay?
Yeah.
Oh, from when?
Like 2018. Which, when I say it out loud, isn't that long ago? But it's also
6
like 5 years.
years.
Yeah, like 6 years. So
that's long as shit, dog.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like when I think 2018, like they showed something not that long ago, but.
It's forever. That is ancient.
Yeah.
There's no way that's even like still the same.
Even
game.
the website still says it's coming out for PS4 and Xbox One. So
love that.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, we should watch the gameplay, a little gameplay demo. It's kind of long, so we'll skip through it as we do it. But yeah.
But like, they try to go too deep in these mechanics. Now you're overwhelming the player. They remove any of the mechanics, and now it's like, well, now it's not the same game.
Yeah, it's missing something. Yeah,
yeah, it feels like it's missing something. They go in a completely different direction, and people complain that it's like not a Beyond Good and Evil game, whatever that even means.
Just as a side, the whole this isn't a blah 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 game. I've said it before. I hate that criticism. That is the stupidest criticism you can make of a game. Like,
this isn't a Final Fantasy game.
Like it happens with Breath of the Wild all the time. Like, I don't consider it I don't consider it a Zelda, not me, but people like, I don't consider it a Zelda game. So on its own merits it's good, but as a Zelda like, no, it's a fuck you. It is also a Zelda game. Like, are you kidding
franchise
me?
For sure. But
yeah,
it's a very like, I'm going to make game development as hard as I possibly can for myself decision to try to make a sequel to that game.
Yeah, to that game specifically, yeah. Especially now that the what's it called? Michel Ancel, he's an asshole, but he was the director of Beyond Good and Evil and all that. Completely quit the industry, completely quit making games, went into like wildlife conservation, which is funny when you think about what this game was.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Which it was all about conservation.
Yeah, exactly. Literally about conservation of the world that you're in.
Good for him. Wasn't he run out because he was like truly like assaulting people like verbally? I don't know about sexually.
I don't know, but he wasn't. I don't think he was one of the sexual offenders. But
he's definitely run out of the industry.
Yeah,
though.
yeah. He was an asshole. He treated people. He treated the people he was working with like complete shit.
Yeah,
like they were nothing. They didn't deserve families. They didn't deserve time to themselves. All they deserved was to work on his games, and it's like, you can't fucking do that.
Yeah,
asshole.
Yeah,
I know some people that need to hear that too.
Last two comments about the game. One, love the music.
Yeah, the music's great. Music perfect.
The music's great, and it's also very unique.
Yep.
Like they created these weird like Caribbean style raps for the game.
They use various languages and shit like that.
Yeah,
and it's like
it's also got like the Hillis theme that shows up twice that I mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's on every relaxing video game music playlist.
And I believe that track is called like Home Sweet Home.
Probably
kind of thing. So it's like a contemplative kind of like this is probably the last time you'll get to be comfortable kind
wistful.
of music. Yeah.
And then on that, tangentially related, it's very Caribbean themed.
Yeah, a lot of things
like
in the game
characters, just like the vibe, the shit that's going on.
Yeah.
It feels like a situation of like the people of a Caribbean nation revolting on the oppressive regimes that have colonized them.
Yeah. I mean, which is basically what's happening there.
Complete with Jamaican stereotypes.
Yeah, I mean, the game is full of stereotypes, and in fact, the 20th anniversary version has warnings about it. It's like got Chinese stereotypes. The whole fucking wall,
that's true.
the little fucking Confucius walrus with the music in there and the accents. Like, come on.
Yeah.
At the time, obviously, people treated it differently, but nowadays, I think it's a little crusty, and it makes.
And it's like a water nation. You know what I mean? Everybody has like boats.
Yeah. And for lack of a better way to put it, you can tell a lot of the elements of the game were created by fucking white boys. I said this earlier.
Yeah.
It's like, you're so close to getting it right on, but you did something weird, so now I got to kind of like turn my brain off to it.
It was 2003, so
yeah,
less scrutiny on that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't give the game a huge a huge it's got to pass for that, but at the same time, none of that stuff in the game is actually there are stereotypes, but none of them are negative.
Right.
They're just stereotypes. Like none of them say like this kind of person is bad.
Right.
Everyone's helpful. Everyone helps you.
At X.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just like a thing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, I think it's maybe an ignorant attempt at trying to not like maliciously ignorant, but I mean like literally don't have access to the other cultures, so they tried to do it the way they could.
Tried to like unite people across
have
cultures,
a bunch of different cultures
and make it more of a class thing.
Like the fucking the mayor of the city the main city in Hillis is a fucking black woman, dude.
Right.
And you weren't really getting stuff like that outside of Perfect Dark, which had a black president of the U.S. But nothing was malicious about any of the stereotypical shit. Yeah, it's just because they were not smart enough to know. Yeah. Like a bunch of fucking game developer nerds didn't know what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah,
so
pre-YouTube, early internet,
pre access to someone to be able to tell them to chill the fuck out.
Yeah.
So, so you have do you have anything more to say about your experience with?
I would just say, going in basically the 20th anniversary being my only real playthrough of the game.
Yeah.
You had mentioned a couple things that bothered you about this release.
Yeah, so I think this game is really good. I still think the best version is the GameCube version if you're going to play it for a bunch of different reasons. I'll explain.
Yeah, but good fucking luck.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, how are you going to get that? The underlying game is still great. I do not, especially for $20. Great, you're good.
Was it? I assume it was full price.
It was $50 on GameCube, and then it went down to $20 like 2 weeks, like a month later, rather.
That's an Ubisoft thing,
huh?
Was that always an Ubisoft thing?
Dog, the Ubisoft price goes down shit always a thing.
Has it been that way since?
It's been like that for 20 years, dude.
I will say I would have felt a little bad if I had bought this for $50 on release. Like I enjoyed the game, but what I got out of it and the time it took me to get that out of it, 20 was the right price, I think. I felt good about the game being 20.
See, I think I had $50 of fun with it when I got it, especially because when I originally I played it through like 3 times straight through.
I think
I finished all the save files, I should say.
It's hard for me to say because it's not 2003.
Right. Yeah.
Like the quality of the game and, how it looked, the production value for 2003.
Yeah.
Maybe it was on par. I think if I were to put a max price point on how much value I think I would pay, 40, I would go up to 40 maybe. 20 is a good price for it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to think about it though because it's 20.
Yeah.
But so yeah, so like let me go through the various things that actually frustrate me about this, and they're Ubisoft things. Ubisoft Connect. You can log into Ubisoft Connect, get their achievements on their.
I played the game entirely offline, so I had no.
Okay.
Ubisoft Connect.
So if you do use that Ubisoft Connect shit, pop-ups everywhere. I hate it. I fucking hate it. I wish I didn't do it, but the funny thing is that Ubisoft account I made was for when the original game came out, and they had password systems to do the speed runs and scores. So I would use my passwords from the GameCube game to put in on that. Like the account's name is Chief Jade.
That's
like I
funny.
100% made that. So I figured tie it into my original experience. But yeah, so the pop-up's ugly. The graphical upgrades are mostly good, but not all of them are for the better. Like I mentioned to you earlier, Jade's hair in the original game was like stark black. It was completely black. In this game, they added a texture to it, and the texture just doesn't look good. The texture's bad. The texture's just bad. And there's little like streaks of hair that come out, past her headband and everything. And those had a really soft texture in the original game, but now they're really sharp, and it just looks like she's got fucking solidified tar coming off of her head sometimes. I'm just like, dog, why is it like this? I think a lot of the lighting changes, some of them are for the better, but a lot of them sharpen and add rim lighting where they didn't need to, because the game looked really good when it was soft.
Yeah.
Like softening everything. Jade herself, she was lightened. I don't like that. She was a little bit more tan, a little bit more orange in the original game.
I can't believe they whitewashed her.
I mean, honestly though, Paige has more polygons, but
interesting.
A lot of the characters have more polygons. For some characters, you wouldn't even notice if I didn't tell you. Like Jade has heels now. She doesn't have heels on her shoes in the original game. But Paige, his nose is less angular, it's more round, which actually takes away from a little bit of the uniqueness of his face, because the angles kind of, it would draw those angles, and then you'd like draw them down to his mouth where his teeth were, and it made him look a certain way that was very characteristically like video gamey without being too. It leaned into the fact that it was made with polygons, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And it reminded me of the way Rayman and all that kind of stuff was made, like Rayman 2 specifically. What else? The camera is based on the HD version, which is based on the PC version, which is not based on the original GameCube, PS2, Xbox version. So the camera has almost complete free look. It's not. There's some places where it still gives you the angle it needs you to have. But in the original game, the camera was much more controlled, which I think made the game look better, especially because the original game, when it was in 4:3, it was only in 4:3, it actually was letterboxed. So they meant for you to look at it like a kind of a film anyway.
I see.
Letterbox almost exactly like RE4 is on the 4:3 versions, like the GameCube version. But I think some of the new music misses what was cool about the original music. Like I mentioned to you before too, Ben, that there was they added like a sting to the intro, like the first battle before that one starts. There's it goes quiet in a certain part of it. And it's very obviously deliberately quiet. It's not a bug. I can guarantee it's not a bug. But they added like a like a choir in that part. So it changes the way that the feelings you're supposed to get from that bit are paced a little differently, because now you don't get that chance, that little like mysterious what the fuck happened or what's happening. You just get, oh, this is bad for sure, kind of thing.
You're instantly thrust into the negative vibe.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, this is definitely a high drama action situation rather than a can
what
I
the fuck is
deal
going
with
on
this
situation.
There's the controls are a little weird in comparison. The GameCube version specifically, because the GameCube controller had less buttons. Every button had its exact purpose, and nothing crossed wires. You didn't use the D-pad to select your shit and then use the D-pad to use your items and things like that. You'd use the D-pad and then press X to use your items and shit. And it all kind of made sense in the original game. Plus, the Switch version is 30 frames per second, which looks good. It looks fine that way. The other versions are at 60.
But I didn't have any issues with the frame rate.
Yeah, the GameCube version of the game specifically is like 60 FPS almost all the time. The Xbox version was sometimes, and the PS2 version wasn't. The PS2 version of Beyond Good and Evil sucks ass. It's the aspect ratio is wrong. That version sucks. It's crazy to me how many multi-platform games are kind of shit on PS2. Actually, now that I think about it, especially multi-platform games that I like.
Sonic 06.
Huh?
Sonic 06.
PS2.
Oh fuck, that was PS3.
That was PS3.
But it was shit on PS3.
Yeah, it was shit on PS3, but that's a different thing. But even like speaking of Sonic Heroes is shit on PS2. Yeah. That shit runs
and
at 30 FPS only. Shadow the Hedgehog, dog shit. All those games, like, you wouldn't think of it, but a lot of those games were GameCube. You know, the GameCube was the lead platform, despite it being the least popular of the time. And you know, the Xbox could just brute force everything, and the PS2 was a weird system that needed games made specifically for it.
Right.
But it was also the most popular, so all these games came out for it, almost like the fucking Switch is.
Yeah.
So, but
it's good for people. It's good to optimize.
Yeah. Is that the I Love Jordans?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. But look, like all my little complaints. In the end, the 20th anniversary version of the game is a perfectly good way to introduce yourself to the game that is there. It's easily accessible. There's multiple, it's on all platforms basically. My problems are simply problems that I have because I played the original like vision of the game, and this basically has almost none of the people that were involved with the original game on it. So everything
it was 20 years ago.
I know, but that doesn't always happen. Like it feels like there's missing. They miss the way the art was supposed to work and things like that with their additional textures and whatnot. But overall, if you don't know any better, then it's fine. Yeah, it's totally fine.
What did you think about the side quest they added for to connect to Beyond Good and Evil 2?
Good and Evil 2. I actually liked it. I think it didn't ask anything crazy of you. It just asked you to read the map, which I'm glad they leaned into that because the map is quite good in the game anyway.
Yeah, the map is a huge part of the game.
Yeah, and you feel like you're discovering something, especially if like you hadn't played the game before. So this was like content that was kind of integrated directly into this first experience.
Volcano too.
Yeah, exactly. But for me, who had played the game before, it recontextualized some of the way the game worked. Because now I have a little bit of Jade's past understood.
Yeah.
She isn't just somebody from Hillis. She's something bigger than she's a character that has had a bigger impact somewhere else, like just as a child, that I haven't gotten to experience. I only get to experience through these audio logs, which is ironic because the only way I've gotten to experience Beyond Good and Evil 2 is through fucking video demos and shit like that. So it's basically the exact same way I've been experiencing the game in the first place. And then spoiler, whatever. Seeing Jade's mom rendered in like Beyond Good and Evil 1 style is hilarious. She ain't supposed to look like that. But now I know she's Jade's mom actually. But
I will say, I mean, it seemed I was surprised at how naturally it fit into the game.
Yeah.
Like it didn't feel tonally different.
It didn't
feel wildly out of left field. Like it felt like it had always been part of the game.
It did feel like it was supposed to be a part of the game, which is
it's commendable.
It makes me for all the shit we talked about Beyond Good and Evil 2, it makes me a little bit more confident in the game, in what they are making, if they're still making it.
Yeah.
I think by the time it comes out, it might actually be smaller scale, because whatever they were envisioning was probably too fucking much, which is why they probably completely restarted development. And in integrating this stuff into Beyond Good and Evil 1 through the 20th anniversary version, it might even be be them saying like, these are the characters you should be thinking about. Don't worry about this anything grander than that. Just worry about these like 3, 4, 5 characters. Because they bring up some other characters and other characters things, and just be kind of anticipate learning about these characters in the next game, because they've shown all these characters in the trailers. Actually,
I did recognize
these are characters that
visually
are
all the
like Nox is the fucking
the monkey
ugly
dude.
monkey.
Yeah.
Everybody's been mentioned in the what's it called?
In all the trailers.
Yeah, in all the trailers. Yeah.
Even the early ass 2008 one.
Yep. Yeah. Well, no. The 2008 one has, I think, just has the
has the monkey.
Does it have the monkey?
It definitely has the
in
monkey.
the 2008 one.
I'm pretty sure.
We'll have to watch it later.
Oh no! You're right. That 2008 one just had Paige.
It just just Paige and Jade. And Jade has the outfit that you unlock, and she's when she's talking to her mom, she's wearing that outfit.
Yeah, the same outfit
from that 2008 trailer. So it's like, oh, that's okay. That's cool. At least they're acknowledging how much people have seen of the next game. Yeah. No, I think in altogether, I think playing Beyond Good and Evil is a good experience. I don't think it's necessarily required for everybody to experience. I don't think there's anything this game did in particular that informed all other games after it.
Right.
Like this isn't. I think
it's not like quote required reading.
Yeah, I think
some games are.
It's an interesting to see somebody take on the adventure game genre that has nothing to do with Nintendo.
Right, adventure and collectathon.
Yeah. Like not the only association they had with Nintendo is that it came out on the GameCube. That's it.
Yeah.
But it's not Star Fox Adventures, which is booty butt cheeks.
It is probably the best competitor that Xbox had.
That you could get on Xbox.
That you could get on Xbox.
Yeah.
I always associate it with Xbox in my head for some reason.
Yeah, it's not.
Even though that's wrong.
Yeah, it was its own thing.
It's just because that's the first time I played it was on Xbox.
Yeah, and half of the way the game works even is that part of the reason why it was this game was meant to be bigger. This game was actually meant to be sort of what Beyond Good and Evil 2 was shown off
meant to be like more like an Ubisoft game.
Yeah, exactly. But it had to be made smaller for a bunch of different reasons. And one of the reasons cited was that Michel Ancel found the sailing in Wind Waker boring.
That's really funny.
So they're just like, all right, less of that. The island, the places you got to go to will be closer together. You just kind of like push the stick forward and go to them.
You know what? I'm glad he made that decision.
I am glad he made the decision too. I think having a big sea to drive around on would have made this game a little rougher to play multiple times. Like I played through Wind Waker multiple times, but that's because when it comes to going to the dungeons, once you know where they are, you just go to them.
Well, but also the remake or remaster of the Wii U version.
Yeah,
adding the turbo sail.
Yeah, but even then, it
feels a lot better.
Yeah, I played the game multiple times on GameCube, so
I did too. But it does.
Yeah.
I can see the point.
Yeah.
It's
I
a
do
lot
see
of
the
downtime.
purpose. Yeah. But yeah, this isn't. Did I already mention Killer 7 like I always do?
Not yet.
Okay, I think like Killer
Plug
7. Yeah, plug it. I think if you care anything about like the way games are presented narratively and visually, I think you have to play Killer 7. I think you have no choice but to play it eventually. Because if you don't play it, then you're missing out. Straight up, you're missing out on something that will never ever be made again. Never ever ever be made by anyone ever again. This game, if you don't play it, you won't ever get a game like this ever again either. But this is more, this is more of a culmination of the things that were, special at the time.
Yeah.
And why this kind of game is still special now.
Like a cultural time capsule.
Yeah, it's one thing for me to tell you about it, it's another thing to play it, but I think it's enough for us to tell you about it rather than you having to force yourself to play it. Like it's not. I don't think everybody's going to like this game. You know what I mean?
Agree. Yeah.
And I think if you don't like it, then you should not finish it.
Right.
Because then you will just resent it, and I don't want you to resent it. You know what I mean? Whereas there's some games where I'm like, you're not going to like it, but if you care anything about the medium, you should try to push through it because it's not, it's not that big of a deal.
One of these days I'll play Killers.
You should.
How long is it?
Your first run will probably be 10, 12 hours. Yeah. You'll have to watch every cutscene. If you don't watch every cutscene, then whatever.
Be over.
But I mean, if you don't watch every cutscene, you're missing the point anyway. But if you don't do that, you can finish the game like half the time.
Yeah. All right.
But okay.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that was a good return. Not overly negative. I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I know people love it when I do that, though.
I posted a couple Higher Fans things.
Oh shit! I can't remember them.
That's all right. One of the things I did want to mention, it's not really a Higher Fans, but one of the UI designers on Metro Prime 4 was like tweeting and wrote an article about it.
Yeah.
And it was just cool. It made me think about it just because you mentioned that like there's probably nobody working on Beyond Good and Evil 20th anniversary that worked on the original game.
Yeah, at least not many, yeah.
And I think that's probably true to some degree with Metroid Prime 4 and original
Yeah.
Metroid Prime, which
Yeah.
is they confirmed essentially that part of why they made Metroid Prime Remastered
Is to
was to
learn how
get
to-
people's hands back on the original game.
Metroid Prime, yeah.
Kind of like what they're probably doing with Beyond Good and Evil 2, getting people's hands on the original game again.
Yeah.
But it was interesting to see that essentially tacit confirmation.
Right.
And
yeah.
the UI designer being like, oh yeah, I worked on some of the details and refinements on Metroid Prime Remastered, and now I carried that forward to Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah.
So I thought that was pretty cool.
Which is good. Like, Metroid Prime Remastered makes me really confident in Metroid Prime 4, even being a Switch 1 game, like an original Switch game.
There was some other shit. One thing that was surfaced to me over the algorithm is some of these ROM hacks for Ocarina of Time.
Mm-hmm.
But the ROM hacks that are like straight up new bosses.
Oh, yeah. You were talking about
and
that
I was
stuff.
looking,
Yeah.
I was like, this is pretty fucking impressive.
Yeah.
This isn't like, oh, just dropping the mechanics and characters of, Banjo-Kazooie into a different game or like shit like that we've seen before. This is like full custom models, assets, moves, hitboxes, areas, and it looked relatively coherent and consistent.
Yeah, it's definitely I watched the video you sent. It's like, this is very detailed. This and that. It's kind of like not in the spirit of Ocarina of Time, in my opinion, but
yeah. They tried though by doing a whole
like conceptually, I think it's
thing.
Like conceptually, I think it's a cool thing. I think I'm like, ROM hacks and shit like that bore the shit out of me, but like, it's just how it is. Like, just make your thing. Yeah. But it's cool to see that they can do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
to the whole basically putting new models into the game.
Yeah.
Like specifically that model of the statue in the middle, like that looked like something that could have shown up in one of the temples
in an N64 game.
Yeah, in an actual like native N64 hardware.
Yeah.
So that kind of shit, I was impressed by how much effort and time he put in to make it. So that was all I got. I don't even know who this dude is.
Yeah, I don't either.
It was just a video of somebody playing through it. Let me see if I can find the comment. Thanks for playing. I hope you enjoyed fighting. Hisuya, Hiisuya, 121 subscribers. So, yeah, go off, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I'm not hiring you, but
damn, savage.
Show me something more, and then I'll consider it.
Something original.
Yeah, show me something built from scratch, and then we'll talk.
You have it. And even then, chances are slim that you'll play it.
Chances are slim, yeah.
We all know how you feel about indie games.
Let me explain that, because that's people are gonna think some way about that. Look, quick explanation. Indie games are fine. Not very many of them are very exciting to me, however. I know there's a lot of people that love them, but I think because I've played video games for my entire life, a lot of these games kind of just imitate. Listen. A lot of these indie games just kind of imitate stuff I've already played, and in a way that's like not as fun, not as interesting, not as fresh, which you think would be the opposite. So I just kind of bounce off of them instantly. I'm like, why don't I just play the real thing? I don't have a clear example of that off the top of my head, but not every game's like that. Like Celeste is actually hype. It's its thing. But I can't even think of any other examples, because I'm just like, ugh, all right, I'm done with this. Just like, whatever to me.
To each their own. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like replaying games, whereas I know you very much like replaying the games.
I like replaying games,
that resonate with you.
Yeah.
And I think that's just the way of how certain people work. Some people love rewatching the same movies that they love over and over again.
Yeah.
Some people can't stand rewatching movies.
Yeah.
That's how it is. More for everybody.
All right. Good night. Good night.
Let's wrap it up.
Good night. What are we on?
Send us an email, memoryleakpodcast@gmail.com.
We won't read it.
But somebody did email us.
Yeah, we do need to read them. Yeah, that's
Knox?
true.
Somebody named Knox. Didn't you see
the monkey?
Not Nux. That's Nux.
The monkey in
the monkey
Beyond
is
Evil?
Nux.
It's Nox.
Isn't it KNUX?
No, it's KNOX.
Oh.
I mean, I know you can't read.
Anyway, it's
but
NOX is the person that emailed us. Okay. So shout outs to you.
Right.
Sent us an email that was like, just straight up, I don't know who you guys are,
yeah,
but you're cool.
That's right.
appreciate the comment. Send us anything you'd like us to talk about, and we will consider it. Give us a like, comment, subscribe. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and YouTube. And I think I'm done traveling. Except for a work conference I have to go to in September in Atlanta, but that's 2 months away. So other than that, I think should be back on schedule now.
Maybe. All right. Yeah. Get ready for a new one every week for a while now.
All right. Until next time.
Peace out. Peace out. Peace out. Good night. Good night. Good night.